Welcome to my channel, Gemma's Bookish World. If you're new here, hi. I love all things fantasy romance, as you can probably tell from the books behind me. So today I'm going to split this video into 3 parts. I'm going to chat about my reading goals for this year. Then I'm going to talk about what I've been reading and what I plan to read this week. And my third thing I'm going to do today is talk about this book here, what I think, my reaction. But don't worry, this won't be till the end. So if you've not finished yet, or you don't want to see spoilers, then don't worry, I'm not going to say anything until the end. And I'll give you loads of warning. Okay, so let's start with my reading goals for the year. I've got 3 goals and things I want to go by this year. It's not to do with the amount of books. If I read what I read, that's how I kind of go with it. Some months I can read loads. Loads to me is like 5-6 books. Not that many to me, it's like 1 or 2. That's where I'm at with it. But it's more about what I'm reading and how I'm reading I want to think about. So my first one is my physical TBR. Now, it's not as big as a lot of other people's, and some people will go, what, you're fine, but I'm uncomfortable with it, so I want to change it. I've got about 70 books on my physical TBR at the moment, and that bothers me, mainly because I tend to read about 50 books a year. So I've got a year's worth of books already sat here without the amount of pre-orders and new books that will be coming out this year. So my aim is to try and get that down. Okay, that's my first goal. My second goal is to not get caught up too much in the hype. I just feel like some books last year were ruined for me because I got so caught up with them and I expected too much from them. So for one book, for instance, was Phantasma. It blew up on TikTok. I saw it everywhere. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that book and I will be picking up book 2. However, because I'd heard so many things and people going, it's amazing, it's incredible, it's this. So I was reading it and I just kept waiting for things to happen. And then once I got to the end, I was like, that was a good book. But I didn't enjoy it as much because I felt like I was constantly waiting for that amazing thing to happen. So that's why I need to step back and not be sucked into the hype. And that's the reason why I haven't read Quicksilver yet, because I've seen it, it's gone big, and I'm like, oh. So I'm gonna let it like die down a bit and then I'll jump on that. My third goal for the year is, and I know this probably sounds really silly considering like what's behind me, but to be more selective with my special editions. Now, I subscribe to Fairy Loot currently, and I currently have got adult YA and romantasy. That is going to change. I've literally just got the romantasy, and that's the one I really wanted, so I will be keeping that one. But I think I am going to get rid of the adult and just keep YA and romantasy for now. I have got rid of Illumicrate and I have got rid of Lot Library, so I've been doing quite well. But I feel like I need to I only really want to have special editions of my shelves of books I love and books that I adore. So my goal is I'm going to try and sort of switch between every other book or every second book this year, making sure it's one of my special editions so I can get through them. So I also find that when they come through the door and I open them and I read about the blurb and what they're going to be about, I get really, really excited and I want to read it there. And then I don't, and then they sit here on my shelves, and don't get me wrong, they look stunning, but then I go, oh, do I really want to read that? They kind of lose a bit of hype and a bit of momentum. So my plan is to try and get through as many of them as I can and to kind of calm down on buying them as well. That's my other goal too. So they're my reading goals for this year. If they're similar to yours, please let me know. And can you let me know your reading goals as well in the comments? So if there's any on there that are good, I can then have those too. So this is what I have been reading this week. I have finished both of these this week. I started The Stars Are Dying about a week and a half ago, I'd say now. So this isn't a week's worth of reading. Like, there's no way I could read this amount in a week. I'm not that quick of a reader. This one here, The Stars Are Dying, I was very lucky to be sent this copy by the Tandem Collective. We are going to be doing a read-along of book 2 on Instagram. And so they set the first one out, so everybody was caught up with it. And I really enjoyed this book. The first 30%, I did struggle and I did nearly DNF at some points. But I'm actually really glad I didn't, because this world is so interesting. You've got fae, vampires, humans, and celestials, which I know is a lot, but it works. And our main character, she lost her memories 5 years ago. So it's about her trying to remember who she is, where she comes from. And in this world, the different provinces, they all have to go and do these trials every 100 years. Whoever wins the trials wins safety for their lands from the vampires. So she ends up in these trials, but it's not your typical trials book. That's what and I quite liked that, to be fair. Yeah, it's really good. The male main character, Knight, he's very mysterious, shadow daddy. But yeah, it's a really good book. I did cry near the end of it. I'm not gonna lie, I did. And I actually now can't wait to get into book 2. So this is like a lesson to me to go, do you know, I know sometimes we say life's too short for books so you're not enjoying DNF, but I'm so glad I didn't DNF with this book, because I would have really missed out. Okay, it's time we talk about this. So I am going to be talking about spoilers. So if you don't want to know spoilers, please, thank you for watching so far, but please go. Come back to this when you are done and see if you agree or not with me. If you have read it, let's go. Let's talk about this. So let's start with, I gave it 3.5. I rated Fourth Wing 4 and Iron Flame 3. So that's where it sits for me. Better than Iron Flame, and I am pleased with that, because after that, I was not expecting a lot from this book. So I'm glad I did enjoy it. However, there are quite a few big things that just didn't sit well with me. So I enjoyed the first 50% of this. I really did. I was in the group chat going, I'm enjoying this. This is great. I loved Xaden's angst. I love a protective male character. I really enjoyed the fact that they are back at the college, they're back learning, they're back doing all that, and it kind of felt more Fourth Wing because of that. The issue came in this book for me was the amount of characters in here. Now, I didn't do a reread, okay? So I was kind of feeling this is on me. I didn't reread this. However, two things then came up. One, I have done that with a lot of books. I don't reread, and I've never struggled so much. So that doesn't help. Second, I know people who did a reread and still got confused. There was just so many different characters in here, and I just felt like sometimes that took me out of the story. Like, I wasn't as invested in the plot, because I was just thinking, who is that? Where are they from? Do I know them? All these different questions. So that really didn't help. It also didn't help, like, the random things that happened in this with the time jumps. So, for instance, Xaden's mum suddenly appearing out of nowhere. Like, what? Like, what? And then nothing actually really helpful happened with her. Like, that didn't move the plot on meeting mum. I think it probably will come up again in the next couple of books, so maybe that will. But within this book, it brought nothing. The time jumps would sometimes they're useful, but most of the time in this they weren't. Sometimes I felt like they just skipped over things. So, for instance, when she had to tell Ree about Xaden being Venom, and then it just cut that, I was like, "What? I wanted to hear that conversation. Why are we skipping this? I don't understand." I also didn't like the fact that Andana came back so quick. Like, we'd had this mopey Violet, and I've seen people say it was like Bella in New Moon, and now I cannot get that out of my head. But we had this, and then she just came back. I was like, well, it doesn't have as much of emotional impact. I don't get it. The ending, I will say, as much as I am confused by it, and I'm like, what has happened? It is a cliffhanger. I knew it would be. It's not bad. My problem is, I feel like it sets up book 4, and I feel like I know what's going to happen. Like, she's going to end up dream walking to try find Xaden, to try and persuade him to come back. That's book 4 done. Then they'll have the big final battle in book 5, and then we're done with this series. I just, yeah. So overall, I didn't mind it. Was it the best read? No. Will I be rereading it? Probably not. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Will I continue with this series now? Yes. I always said it was this book. After Iron Flame, I was ready to give up on this series. And I said, no, I'm going to give Onyx Storm a go and see where we happen. It did enough that I will carry on with this series, but I feel like there's big issues, and yeah, we shall see what happens in the next book. So over the next week, hopefully I will be picking up The Night is Dying, which is book 2 of this one. I really cannot wait to start that. And hopefully I will also be starting, which I'm really excited with, my arcs up here. I'm also hoping to start this absolute stunner soon as well. Let me know in the comments what your current read is and what you're planning on reading this week. And I will see you very soon.